Alright, so we're here in Meridian, Mississippi. We was gonna check out Royal Land, and as we going by, the fire department's there, 2 or 3 trucks, and then the police is pulling up. The place is on fire, it looks like, out there. So we're gonna have to go to the next site, all the way over in Rodney, Mississippi, which is all the way next to Louisiana. So we got a little drive to make, but we're gonna try to hit this place on the way back through and try to see what happened. Just our luck, looks like somebody's caught the place on fire last night. That's the way it goes, I guess. That inhabited the area and where their locations were. See, I was just wondering about Alabama. You got the Cherokee. I just wondered where they were. I thought they was in the northeast corner there. Let's see. They didn't have no Indians, I guess. That's cool. This is their boundary here. It appears like Mississippi had way more tribes than Alabama did. What's back there? This is just a little spot on our way to Rodney. There's all kind of historical sites down this road. This one here is telling the boundaries of different kind of Indian tribes and some of the things that went on in these areas back in the time. But they're just littered down through here. This whole area is just so full of history. It's unbelievable. We don't really have any places like this in Alabama that's got so much history behind it. Civil War history, Indian history, settlement history. I wonder why we don't keep up with it in Alabama. It's just completely different here. Like they've kept up with the past here more. It's everywhere you look, all around. Maybe because it's so much more rich in history than being close to the Mississippi River. There was a whole lot more Civil War battles and stuff like that that took place here. I'm not sure, but it's definitely got a lot of it. We're getting pretty close to Rodney now, probably about 30 miles outside of Rodney. We just decided to stop here and take a break and see what all was here. We gotta put graffiti everywhere. I mean, ridiculous. What's out there, man? Huh? What's out there?
Looks like it runs up the backside of somebody's property.
Ah.
Looks like a truck down there.
That'd be pretty good. We can edit that in, just a little bit piece of that. And folks, onward to the next one.
Ready?
Go for it.
Go.
Here we are. We're here in Rodney. This place is amazing. What you see is definitely not all that once was, but it's what's left. A lot of it's been taken away by flood and just time alone. This here is the Presbyterian church right here. And this here was a boarding house. It was all built in the early 1800s. It's amazing that it's still standing today. A lot of it's been restored and a lot of work's been done to it to keep it up like it is. But this is an amazing building. This church here, up in the top up there, is a bell. Oh, the church was built. The bell was purchased for, they believe, 1,000 pounds of silver. All donated by the members of the church.
Hey, if you look right up there above that middle window, that's that recreation of that cannonball.
As you can see right here in the center window on the top level right here, you're gonna see a spot right there. The hole's been filled in. That's where one of the cannonballs from the Civil War hit. You would have had the Mississippi River would have been just this side right here, would have been just right here. The Mississippi River now has been moved 2 miles yonder in this direction. It was just, this was the port right here. This was one of the major ports for the Mississippi River during the Civil War. There was a group of Union soldiers that went into the church. There was a Union sympathizer, was the pastor. He was a pastor, he was a Union sympathizer, and he invited the Union soldiers into the church, 18 of them. And they went into the church and they were having church service, and one of the Confederate soldiers come in and he told the pastor that he had to interrupt the service, and then told the soldiers that they were under arrest, and then one of the Union soldiers fired on the Confederate soldiers, and a gunfire broke out, and later on the word got back to the lieutenant on the ship on the Mississippi River, and they shelled the whole town, really is what they did, and that's just one of the holes that was left. The original shell was probably looted a long time ago, but you'll probably get to go in there and look at it. We're not sure what it looks like on the inside, but they say they put a replica there back when they restored it back in the 70s, when they restored the place. The church was, the Historical Society had it at one time, but they could no longer fund to keep it up, so they decided to turn it over to the state of Mississippi, and ever since about 1972, the state of Mississippi has been in control of keeping the building up. As you can see, they're not doing a very good job of it.
Somebody's cutting the grass.
Old Rodney Presbyterian Church right here, folks. Let me get a little read on that. Let's get a quick shot of each one of these, and we'll take it on in. Let's take a walk around the church, then we'll go in. What do you say? Let's keep them in suspense for a minute. So, folks, what you got here is one of the oldest towns and in the southeast is still here to even look at. I mean, it's amazing. Look at this place. This was here. This was here. This is history still alive. Something you don't get to see. I mean, you can walk over here and touch these bricks, and you're touching something from, I mean, 1830. 1830, folks. Look at that. It's not every day you get to touch something that was built in 1830. I mean, it's just amazing right here. I mean, look at these shutters, would you? These are the original. I mean, look, people. Could be original gunshot wounds right here. I mean, original bullet shells as they was having the fight right here. Could very well be just right where a bullet went through during the gun battle. I mean, I don't know that, but I mean, you just never know. Look at these windows. Now you're talking about, these windows would have been state of the art back in the day. These would have been just, no telling what these windows would have cost. Double pane, Nick. And you see time took her toll on her. Time has definitely took its toll. But surprisingly, she stood the test of time. Just to prove, if you want to build a house, I built it out of brick. Before the town was made right here, what you had was the Indians used this area to cross the Mississippi River, and settlers would come down through here. This was a main crossing area to get across the Mississippi River. Maybe it was the shallowest point or whatever. I'm sure it was, because that's generally where you'd want to cross the river at. So this was a high crossing point before the town ever became a township, before it ever was at all a town. But at one time, this was one of the major ports off the Mississippi River. It's amazing to think that this area one time, as early as 1830, had over 200 inhabitants here with over 30 businesses. in the 1830s. I mean, I imagine there's probably nowhere near that many buildings out here now, but it's just amazing that a town could go from this to nothing. To get out here was insane. There's a dirt road leading out here, and it's just in the middle of nowhere, really. They say there's still a couple people living out here. Couldn't be.
That's the only way up top.
Huh?
That's the only way up top.
What we're doing is we're going up top. Nick, are you good to make this travel?
Let's do one at a time.
All right. These are just what I call sketchy stairs, people.
Hey, this is a slope once you get up here too.
Now you see what we're dealing with here. This is insane, people. Rare footage right here, people. The floor here is sloped. You see, there would have been a pew here at one time, and then you have the pew here. You know, generally back in the days, this would have been the spot where the higher ups of the community would have sat. They would have been up here, away from the rest of the congregation.
Sure is warm. Warm today. Warm yesterday.
Let's take it back down.
I know I'm headed. That's just cool, dude.
That was neat back there. That was super neat.
Hey.
Well, folks, that was this.
Hello?
Don't get much neater than that. That's history. If you ever wonder what bricks looked like in the 1800s, that's it, folks. These are the original steps. 1830 when this church was built. That is a long time. Look at these bricks, James. Originals, baby.
Step up them steep stairs. They're steep too.
Probably a little storage unit in here. Up underneath the stairs, you had a little storage under there. Stuff to sweep and mop with. My guess. I'm not sure. Church. What we have today in this world is. So the pastor would have stood up here and he would have addressed the congregation. Could you imagine? You got your Union soldiers in their best uniforms. You got your townspeople here. Your people up top up here. They're the more established people in the community. They got a little more money, maybe a little more, probably had more slaves, more cotton gins, more farms and more land. Back then, money wasn't always the way to establish your hierarchy in the community. A lot of times it was just how much land you had. So they would have been up there, and your normal people would have been down here. 18 soldiers, Union soldiers, were invited by the sympathizer preacher who believed that he didn't believe in slavery, so he believed in the Union side. Vicksburg had already failed by this time. It's 1860, after 1863, Vicksburg failed. It's just right down the road. So this is just, it's amazing to think that A Union soldier would have come through one of these doors. You have two entrances. He would have come through one of these doors as they're having church. He walked up to the pulpit. He told the preacher, he says, "I'm sorry to have to interrupt your service, Pastor." He looked back at the congregation. He looked at the Union soldiers, and he told them they were under arrest. One of the lieutenant Union soldiers, of the 18 men who were here, one of them happened to carry a pistol hidden away that nobody else knew he had, not even his commanding officer. He was towards the back of the room here. The Union soldiers started from the front. They filled up most of the pews. Towards the back of the room, Lieutenant said, he had his hidden away pistol tucked away in his boot. He pulled his pistol out and he fired upon the man. He missed, and then all the people in the church ducked down and got down below the pews. And at this point, a gun battle took place. Outside of the church was a bunch of Confederate soldiers. They had the place surrounded. So eventually they took the Union soldiers captive. It wasn't long after that that the barrage of fire from the ship began to hit the town. They bombed shells down in the town for hours and hours and hours. And finally the commanding officer for the Confederate Army got word back to the Union ship that if he didn't stop firing, he would kill the officers. And the officers was the commanding officers of the ship. So at that point they quit firing. It was a matter of years down the road before they was actually able to trade their captive soldiers that they had from this church. They traded them for some rebels that had been captured by the Union soldiers later on down. And that's how that story went. It's one of the big stories around this area that happened. And there's many more, but that's just one of them that happened at this church. You could go on for days about the stories in this area. This area is rich with history, rich. And it's an amazing experience for us to be here. And you know, I can't explain the feeling you get when you're inside a room this old, inside a church this old. So many spirits and so many souls have been through here. So many words have been taught about the Lord. You just don't get this feeling in any other building I've ever been in. It's amazing. I wish you could be here, but I'm glad we're able to let you see it. Because a lot of people won't never get the chance to come here. And one day this place won't be here. As you can see, it's deteriorating. Time is taking it over. And any time a flood could just take it all out. Half of the buildings that are gone now are gone because of the flood. So, you know, the Mississippi River was rerouted. Or it would be right here at our doorstep. It was rerouted. That's the demise of the town was basically based around the fact that the river had been moved. And the town was no longer as important as it once was. So we're going to go on. We're going to check out the rest of this place. Come on along with us. But before we go, I almost missed this. Look at this, would you? How cool is that, y'all? Look at here. It has a subscription on it. Donated by Mr. and Mrs. Gothman in 1990. So this is not an original picture. What you have. It's definitely old. Most of the keys don't even work. And this is a very old piano. It's definitely not original, but it's definitely very old. I don't know a whole lot about pianos, but I know when I see old. We're definitely going to move along now. This place is something else to know that you're in such an old history. And look at this walkway right here. Did you get this in? Look at this. That's just beautiful artwork. Beautiful. Let's go see what the town has to offer. See if we can find us a grocery store. I'm getting thirsty.